Hey guys, welcome to the video. It's a slightly different video. I'm actually on my way to my local gaming store, which is just up the road, because they today are hosting a Lardy day with Richard Clark. I believe he's going to be there. Him and some of the Games Club volunteers are hosting a day of Lardy games. So there's each person attending gets to play 2 games, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. I'm playing Sharp Practice this morning, and then I'm playing a game of Chain of Command in the afternoon. The cool thing about this is you don't have to bring any miniatures or any dice or anything. They supply everything, so you just put your name on a sheet, they allocate you to a game, and then you go and play it. So kind of exciting. I'm going to try to get some photos and stuff whilst I'm in there of all the games that are going on. As I said, I'm not sure what era my games are set in, so guess I'll find out when I'm there, which I'm almost there. So yeah, I'll do some photos, maybe some videos of what's going on when I'm there, and I'll just do a bit of a recap at the end of the day. So yeah, it's going to be really cool, really fun. Get to see, maybe even talk to Richard Clark, the demigod that is Richard Clark, which is quite cool. I believe he's going to be hosting a Infamy game, which sounds quite cool. But yeah, what I'll do, like I said, I'll do some videos, photos. I'll put them up, and maybe you can see what we get up to today. So right, I'll do a recap at the end. Hey guys, so that was the end of the games day. Really good fun. I'm really tired, I got a bit of a headache, not from too much thinking, but no, I had a really good time. So what I'm going to do is just, obviously I thought I'd have a chat whilst I'm walking home, but I'm actually going out tonight, so maybe when I get home or maybe in the morning I'll just have a sit down and do a recap once I've had a think and remember stuff, because I could probably start talking now and I'll just forget a load of stuff. So I had a really good time. Got to see Richard Clark in person. He looked at me, which obviously claim to fame there, so there's that. And yeah, I had a really good game. Had a American War of Independence battle and Sharp Practice, and then I had, I think it was a late war Chain of Command, British against Germans, which I was the British, which was quite cool. In my American War of Independence, I was the Americans. So yeah, I'll do a bit of a recap once I've rested and not got such a pounding headache, as I'm out tonight for my wedding anniversary, so I'm going for a meal, so I won't be recording a video because I don't think I'll be allowed. But yeah, so I'll leave it there, and then I'll pop back with a recap in a bit. Okay, so it's the morning after the Gert Lush Lard event. So I thought just a bit of recap now. I kind of had a bit of a chill out and remembered a few more things now. So I thought I didn't really explain what it was when I was doing my little walk there, same thing. So yeah, my local gaming store, Bristol Independent Gaming, they hosted this Lardy event where it was just a collection of Lardy games. Like I said, Richard Clark was there. And then we had loads of people hosting games, basically. So you had an umpire for each game. You didn't necessarily need to know the rules. I didn't know, you know, I played a handful of Sharp Practice games. I've played one Chain of Command game. So it was handy having someone there who knew the rules and you could just kind of bounce off them. and it made for a really good experience for me. And by the looks of it, everyone else really enjoyed themselves, but I definitely enjoyed myself. So, like I said, that's kind of what it was. There was tons of games on. Like I said, all Lardy rules. I've kind of made some notes down. So we had quite a few Infamy games going on. They actually had a Punic Wars Infamy game as well, which looked really cool. Loads of Chain of Command as well, and 28mm and 15mm. So I played a 15mm Chain of Command game, which was really nice. But also there was some really cool 28mm. They had some, I think, Germans against Russians on one table. It was a 8x6 table, so quite nice and long. On a 6x4 they had an Ardennes map, like battle. It wasn't anything in particular, but it was an Ardennes themed, which was really cool. All the miniatures were snow themed, winter themed, which was really nice. As well as I think a couple more games which same sort of stuff. Also they had a game called Packing Heat. Now I think this was actually one of the chaps who hosted the game. I think he wrote this himself, and he kind of spliced it off Sharp's Practice with the idea of having a lot less miniatures, and it was around kind of American gangsters. So I don't want to guess, maybe 1920s, maybe, I don't know the era, but it looked really cool. So you had your kind of your gangs, and it was. I didn't look too much into that game, but it looked kind of cool, and he had a cool little table set up. I did speak to him, and he said he kind of wrote those rules with the idea of not having to invest into loads of miniatures, because he was a student at the time. So I think he had about 30 miniatures in total for both sides, so like 15 each. And then I think by the looks of it, I just said I didn't watch the game, but it looked really cool anyway. So another game my mate Andy he ran was Bag the Hun, which is aerial combat. So I believe it was Italians against Germans, which looked really cool. Maybe I'm assuming Germans. I don't know. I definitely know one side was Italians. The scale was really nice as well. So it was quite a small scale on a hex mat. Looked really nice. I've taken some photos. So as I'm rambling, I'm going to have some photos come up on the screen. So hopefully you'll see what I'm on about. I didn't take photos of everything. But yeah, this is kind of. So the next stuff they had, so they had quite a bit of Sharp's Practice on there. They had 28mm. I played the American War of Independence game, which was really good fun. I saw some 15mm as well, which looked really cool as well. Really nice, sort of a siege it was. And then some other Sharp Practice games. They had Water Cowboy as well, which I believe is the new rules they're releasing. From what I understand, it's like Water Tanker, but they've done. I don't know Water Tanker, so I don't know what the game's like. But the Cowboys, I guess it reminds me. Maybe it's a bit like Dead Man's Hands. You had, from what I could see, you had a roster of. They had 4 cowboys per side by the looks of it. They each had a roster sheet. They had ammunition and stuff like that, and they had a really nice sort of town set up and with a nice kind of like high street, and so it looked really cool. So I think I've got some photos of that anyway, so I'll pop them up. But yeah, from what I understand, that's about to go into printing, so I guess we'll be seeing it fairly soon. Any of you Wild Westers out there, I know a few, some of the big boys in YouTube are kind of quite like some of the Wild West stuff, so it could be a cool system to look into. I don't know. And then we had I Ain't Been Shot Mum as well, which is World War II. That was played in 15mm as well on a 8x6, and it looked really cool. From what I understand, I think that's a company level game, whereas Chain of Command was aimed at platoon, and then I guess you've got O Group, which is bigger again. So that was really nice. I don't know if I've taken that many photos, but I'll put up what I've got. So that's kind of like a selection of what games they had, which is really cool. And so the structure of the, I think I've kind of gone over the structure of it. You had a game in the morning, game in the afternoon. You paid you £10 to get in. I did that online. You had to pre-book, and David Hunter, the chap who organised it, he just threw you into some games. You kind of put your preferences down, and then he just tucked you into some games, and so you can't really choose what you were going to get. You can kind of ask. So he gave me, like I said, American War of Independence in the morning, and then I had Chain of Command in the afternoon. So let's talk about my games. So I played American War of Independence. I was the Yanks, playing against obviously the British. So I was playing with against a really experienced Sharp's Practice player. The chap who was running the game was super experienced as well, which was really nice because I understand the basics of the game, but I think it's the kind of little bits that I think just comes from experience that I'm not so good on or don't know. And then I had them to kind of bounce off, and which was really handy. And they were really good sports. Like the chap I was playing against, he had a competitive edge to him, sort of, but he was also just having fun. So it was nice. It wasn't like we were just being silly. He obviously wanted to win the game, but it wasn't a struggle. I didn't feel like, oh, you know, he's just a bit of a tryhard. He was actually a really nice chap. I think he come all the way from Birmingham as well, so it was really cool. You know, a lot of these players in this, they weren't from Bristol. A load of them have travelled miles to come here. I met a really good chap I played against Chain of Command, and he travelled from Cornwall. So yeah, it was really nice. So yeah, I played the Sharks practice game. We had the actual game itself. We had a secret objective each side. So I didn't know at the time, obviously, until I kind of got halfway through the game and I figured it out. But my opposition, he had an objective where on the table there was a loyalist house, and the loyalist's wife was actually in the house, and the British were basically doing a rescue mission, going to get her out of the house and get her gone. I didn't know that. I figured it out once they had already taken the wife. So it was kind of at that point I was like, oh, hang on, like I can't really do a lot here. But that's just what it is. And then I had a secret objective where I had a horse cart come on, and it would activate with my rank 1 leader. Say rank 1, my number 1 leader, and I'd have to get them up to near my deployment zone. There was a warehouse, and I had to load up the cart with molasses and some gunpowder and supplies, and then ship it off the table. So that's what the objectives were. Come the end of the game, our umpire kind of said, yeah, you guys both achieved your objectives. I sort of didn't, but we'll go into that in a sec. So yeah, the loyalist wife, she was rescued and off the table. The Yanks, so the Americans, were on the table. They held their own. However, they couldn't stop the loyalist getting away. So on my side of the table, it's very defensive. I had quite a thrown together force. The chap who actually did the umpire kind of admitted the British kind of quite outweighed me. However, my objective was maybe slightly easier to achieve. However, what basically I would say lost me the game is he kind of said we both achieved objectives, but I think the British did win. I had to get my horse cart probably about 2 foot up the table to load up and then load back again, and I think I had 3 turns on the trot that it didn't activate, so I couldn't move it. And then I think out of he rolled a 2d6 to move. Out of however many rolls I did throughout the game, I rolled 2 double ones. I rolled 1 or 2 and a 1. So it was like 2 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, and it just really slowed me. The loading up of the cart got it done quite quick, but the actual movement of the cart was just didn't want to do anything. He was having a casual stroll to market, you know, whilst everyone else was firing around them. So that's what, you know, I feel like if that cart actually moved some decent movement early on, I could have won the game turns before it finished. Because my objective, I was slowing down the British, which I did, I think, quite well. However, I couldn't get my objective. So, but it's just what it is. That's the game, isn't it? It's how the friction works on taking your tokens and actual rollable dice roll. You know, that I'm in the hands of the dice gods, and it's safe to say my dice rolling yesterday was awful in both games. So, yeah, but really enjoyable the game. The miniatures himself, Jim, who hosted the game, was the umpire and hosted. He supplied the whole table outfit, you know, and all the miniatures, and they were incredible. They're all Perry's, I believe. My force was Perry Metals, and they were really, really nice, really nicely painted. Awesome. The British force looked really nice as well. I think it was the Queen's Own Rifles, I think, is what his force was, and they were all in green. He had a detachment of Indians as well, which looked really cool. So really nice table. Really appreciate the game. Love the game. It's really cool, and I definitely want to play it again. Like I said, my opponent, really nice chap, and the chap who umpired was amazing. So yeah, really good. So like I said, I technically lost. He was happy to say we both achieved our objective, but I think the British did a bit better than me, and the British managed to get their force off the table, whereas I was still deployed. And anyway, so first game down, really good fun. Then we had about an hour or so of just chilling out. So wandered around their little shop they've got in Bristol, Independent Gaming. A really nice selection of stuff in their shop. So the only thing, I was going to treat myself to some Warlord farmyard animals, and they didn't have any, which was a shame. But apart from that, they've got a really cool selection, really nice stuff, loads of paints, everything. So they actually do have a website, so I'll pop that link in the descriptions for people to check out, because why not? They're a really good store and games club. So yeah, so we had a bit of a break where we could have our sandwiches and stuff, and then we shifted on to the second game, which like I said, mine was Chain Command 15mm. It was played on a 6x4 table, and it was influenced by the game in the morning. So the game in the morning, both sides had an objective, and then that influences our game. So we come into our game to find the British had done quite well in the morning, and through certain objectives they had basically denied the Germans any armour for the next game. So come our game, the Germans didn't have any armour, they were basically limited to troops. So me as a British player with my partner, I've forgotten his name now, but again, he was a very experienced Chain of Command player. I wasn't, and our two opponents were quite experienced Chain of Command players. So I was very much being having my hand held for most of it, which they were really good sports. The umpire as well was wicked. Again, he was travelling from quite far away, but he was really helpful. So yeah, so we had a platoon with an extra section. So basically 2 sections, 2 senior leaders. So basically we split that force in 2. So my gaming partner had half a force, I had half a force. And we basically just had a kind of a control out. So we just had to stop the Germans advancing. That was our mission, was stop them pushing through off the table. So it was kind of a very slow to start with the British. So I deployed a section, which was immediately under fire from some Germans. And even though I was in cover, the Germans were wide out in the open. The bit of a joke with that game, the Germans' dice roll was phenomenal. Every roll they were getting at least 6, 7, 8 hits on sections and everything. So even though my Brits were in cover and they were wide in the open, at long range, my Brits just got shredded. So, and it took a while for us to get anything else on. So for a while, there's about 2 or 3 German squads just all shooting into this one section of Brits, and that really damaged us. They were shocked, getting killed. Eventually, we got some more troops on, but they were all just picking on this one unit, and shock was riding up. Loads of people killed. My senior leader was in that squad and he got injured and he was unconscious, so he couldn't do anything. My junior leader was in that squad, and then my partner, my game partner, he came on and he attached his senior leader to that squad just to try rally some shock. As well as bringing another couple of sections. We had some tanks as well. We purchased. However, we never actually we got one on the table. It went up a foot and didn't actually shoot anything. Didn't do anything, and the other one never came on. So we had our 4 sections on. They did a bit of shooting, not a lot, but this one section just got absolutely pummeled. And with that, it basically retreated, taking 2 senior commanders and a junior commander, this section off to the rear of our lines. And with that, they activated their chain of command dice, which they clocked up to end the turn, which meant that unit routed off the table. So it took both senior leaders, junior leader, and what's left of the section off, which basically knocked us from a morale 9 down to a morale 2. No, I think it was morale 1 actually. So it just completely shredded us throughout that game. That squad just taking all that damage. We had basically all our other squads were pretty much untouched. Again, I was saying the Germans were rolling really well for their hits. Also, I think they had 4 double turns throughout the game. So we just weren't getting activations. They were just getting loads. They had their bonus red dice. If anyone knows Chain of Command, it just adds an extra activation dice. So they had that as well. We weren't allowed that. So we were slightly handicapped, very slightly just down to the scenario. Like I said, we ended up down to 2 morale. The one section my gaming partner had, he had a junior leader in there, and I think the first couple of shots into that section, he was hit, wounded. Then the next bunch of shots came in, he was hit and then killed. So straight away we're off the table. I think it was under an hour
we were playing for, which was a shame. However, I really enjoyed the game. And we played in 15mm, and it just really clicked with me. I played one game of Chain Command in 28mm, and I thought it was a nice system, but I wasn't necessarily pulled into it. But seeing this 15mm army that this chap had, both armies, and just how the ranges, everything worked, it just seemed so much more realistic. And I just really, really enjoyed it. And I want to hopefully start a 15mm World War II set up now, because I think it just worked well. It just looked really nice. You could do a lot more with it, have a bit more, I don't know, it just seems really good scale. So yeah, the game ended. I really enjoyed it. Really good game. People we were playing against were cracking, and the chap I was with was great, and the umpire was great as well. So yeah, our game did get cut down really short. Like I said, most of the games are going on for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours at least. Ours was done within an hour. But what that did allow was us to then, we had a bit of a chat, and then we just went around the games room for the rest of like the hour or so. So I could just go watch a load of other games. So I went and checked out Bag the Hun as well, whilst that was going on, and that looked really cool. And then we had, at the same time, there was I Ain't Been Shot Mum going on, which is a big big game going on. That looked really cool. Again in 15mm. The Ardennes game was going on as well, so I was checking that out. Loads of it. I didn't really look at the infamy too much, but I think I was on a later period mindset that day. I wasn't overly interested in the Ancients, so I wasn't looking too much into them. But from the photos I've seen on Facebook, they look really cool. So yeah, we just allowed us to go around looking and just chatting to other people rather than just being fixed in on our game and missing everything. So sure, our game was ended early, but it meant we could go and check everything else out, which was really cool. So all in all, it was a really cool gaming day. I really enjoyed it. I'm hoping that, well, I think they might try do this as an annual thing, which would be really cool, because I'd definitely be signing up for it again. Really good fun. But also, it's allowed me to meet a load of other people who, I don't know if it's the Lardy rule sets, but it kind of, I feel like it attracts a sort of a chill player. It's not super competitive, so everyone there were just so friendly and up for a bit of a laugh. You know, it wasn't about rolling the best dice and winning. It was just about a good bit of fun. So it was really nice meeting some really nice people. Opened my eyes to some more rule systems, some more scales. Yeah, and it was just awesome. You know, I got a couple of mates that I wish they came along now, because they're very nervous about doing other stuff, where if you go into an event like this, it's all taken care of. You just turn up. You don't need to know. You don't need to know the rules, really. You're being helped along. Like if you've got a good games master or umpire, which all my games were, and looks like everyone else's games were. So yeah, it was a really great way to kind of experience new things. The one thing I was slightly gutted about, one thing was they had a couple of people pull out sort of last minute, which means they couldn't run some of the games. One of the game being which they were going to run Kiss Me Hardy, which is obviously a naval scale game, which I would have loved to see that. My mate Andy's actually offered to run a game for me, which would be really cool, so I'm looking forward to that. However, it would have just been awesome to see that, because especially I would have thought they would have done quite a big table as well, which would have looked amazing. So that's the only kind of bugbear I had, really. It would just been cool to see that. However, I understand it's not a massive games club, so there's only so many games they can do, and there's only so many rule systems that, you know, if they haven't got interested, they can't do it. So that was slightly gutting, but I mean, hopefully next year they'll do it again and they'll have that. I would love to try do a Pickett's Charge game. I think that would be really cool, or someone else would host it, I don't know, but that would have been nice to see. So yeah, we'll just, you know, see what it's like. But that was kind of my roundup. I'll stop rambling. It was a really cool games week. I've never done it before, and I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, just that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed the photos and stuff I chucked up. I'll try and find some more and dig them out. But yeah, if not, there's Bristol Independent Gaming have their own Facebook page, which I'm sure they're going to put a load on there as well. I think I've already seen some. So yeah, I'll end the video there, and thanks for watching. Hopefully I haven't bored you too much and you found it interesting. And yeah, so cheers guys, and keep an eye out for any videos I do in the future.